everybody, welcome back. Today is going to be my November wrap-up. It was a slow reading month. My husband had to go out of town in the middle of the month, and I was alone with 6 kids. And I'm not going to get a lot of reading done by myself like that. So I only read 6 books, and then I read 2 books of the Bible. So altogether, I read 8 books this month. So I have, let's see, I have 2 5 stars. I have to think. Guys, it is so hot here. It's not even funny. It is December 5th, and I'm sweating. I've been sweating all day, and I'm kind of mad about it because it's December. It should be cold. Why are we in the heat? I'm very aggravated with the heat. Okay, so I read 2 5 stars, a 4 star. Oh no, okay. Okay, so this month I have 3 5 stars, a 4 star, and 2 3 stars. And then the Bible is my favorite book, so those books always get 5 stars. So I read Zechariah and Malachi this month, and so those are 2 5-star books as well. Okay, so I'm going to start talking about these first. I'll start with my 3-star reads. Okay, starting with the one I had the hardest time with, the Butterfly and the Violin. I got this book. I went on this like weird little shopping binge when we first started school this year, and I bought books that went along with the unit studies that we were doing. And one of them was violins, because one of my daughters loves violins. And so I bought this one. It was the only grown-up book, I guess, that I could find at the time that had to do with violins, and it sounded interesting. It's about a girl who is an Austrian general's daughter in World War II, and she is a violinist in an orchestra that plays for the Third Reich. She ends up helping a family that's Jewish and gets caught and ends up in Auschwitz. So I had a hard time with this. I wanted to DNF it so much, but I really wanted to know what happened. So it's a dual timeline. The one timeline is following the girl who is the violinist, and she is in Auschwitz in 1942 to 1944. And I liked that timeline. I wanted to know what happened in that timeline. The other timeline is modern day, and there's a woman who owns an art studio, and she is trying to find a painting of this girl. She's trying to find the original painting. I was not as involved in the modern day timeline. It was what really drew this book down for me. Part of it is because you would go from like this really heavy topic in Auschwitz to a romance that, in my opinion, went kind of quickly and didn't have much depth to it, and there was a lot of like things that happened that didn't make a lot of sense, and they didn't really clear anything up at the end. So honestly, I powered through this book trying to finish it just to see what happened in the timeline in the past, and I was underwhelmed. It didn't do much for me. So this I gave a 3-star, mainly because of the Auschwitz timeline. If it would have been the other timeline, it probably would have gotten a lower one. I'm sure there's all kinds of people that would love this type of story, so I'm not saying it is a book that isn't worth reading. I'm just saying that for me, I wasn't super impressed. So that is the Butterfly Violin, and I gave that one a 3-star. Okay, so the next one, I hauled this a while back, and it's, I always do that. I always put it upside down. It is A Virtuous Woman. I'm not a big Dust Jacket fan, so if the cover of the book is halfway decent, I will take the Dust Jacket off because, I don't know. If I like the Dust Jacket more, then I'll leave that on, but usually the Dust Jacket comes off. So this book I hauled in my first video. I had gotten it at the library, and I got it because in the very first page, it has Proverbs 31, 10 through 25, which talks about the virtuous woman, and obviously the title, The Virtuous Woman. So I figured it would have some type of scriptural something in it. Now, I gave this a 3-star, and the main reason I did is because it is filled with cussing. Most books that have cussing, I will DNF them if it has a lot. This one, I would say, had quite a bit, but I felt like it suited the character. So the main characters are a man and a woman, and you're following their life, their story of their marriage, and it goes from the beginning of the relationship until she passes away with cancer. That's at the beginning of the book. So the man in this book is kind of a gruff fellow, and so the fact that he cusses kind of just fits his character, and it wasn't so overdone that I felt like I needed to put the book down. So I actually really liked the book, except for the cussing. I wish that it wouldn't have had that in it, but that's how it goes. So, but this book talks about Ruby and Jack and their relationship. Ruby meets Jack when she's 20, and he's 40. And she's just gotten out of a really bad relationship. Her husband is killed, and he was not a good guy. And so Jack kind of swoops in and takes care of her better than her first husband. And it's just about their relationship. So it swaps between his perspective and her perspective, and it just shows their journey of their life with each other, their battle with infertility, and how that affected them and affected her, and then her fight with cancer, and eventually her death, and it just kind of goes through all of that. It took me a minute to really understand why this was called A Virtuous Woman, because it was it wasn't really like a Christian story. It had some Christian elements in it, but I was just questioning, why is this a virtuous woman? And then I figured out that it's talking about how she took care of him, and how she did little things throughout their relationship that made her a virtuous wife in his eyes. So I gave this a 3-star. Without the cussing, I think it would have been a higher rating. I don't know if that one made sense. That one was hard to describe. Okay, so on to my 4-star, and that is Another Day as Emily. Honestly, I thought I rated this at 5 stars. So today, I would say it's probably a 5-star. When I rated it, I guess it was a 4-star. But I really enjoyed this book. So this little girl, she's feeling a little bit left out, over the summer. Her friends are doing things different than her, and her brother ends up getting a lot of attention because he becomes a little bit of a hero in their community, and so he gets a lot of notoriety for that, kind of like a 15 minutes of fame situation, and she's feeling a little bit left out. So her summer project is to explore a person's life from the 1800s. It's part of a summer reading program in the library, and they get to dress up as that person and study their life and figure out what it is that that person did. So she picked Emily Dickinson, and she read her poetry, dressed up like her, all of that. Well, when her brother does something that ruins her birthday, she feels so left out that she decides she wants to become a recluse. So she becomes a recluse, like Emily, and finds out that that is not as easy as it sounds. Now, one reason why I really, really loved this book is because I have moments where I really wish I could be a recluse. I know that probably sounds really terrible, but I am an introvert, and there are days where being social is not something that I want to do. And so this was kind of a fun book for me, because there have been days where I'm like, I wish I could just stay in my room and not see anybody and not talk to anybody. And I know none of that is healthy, and I'm thankful that I have a great support system that would not allow me to do that. Kind of like Emily did. She was not allowed completely to be a recluse all the way, and she realizes that it's not as easy as it seems, and it's not beneficial to her life. But it was just fun to look at it and see that even though sometimes we want to be like that, it's not healthy for us. So this was a fun book. The author did a really good job diving into Emily Dickinson's life. The characters, the main character's name is Susan, and her friend his name is Gilbert. And Emily Dickinson's sister-in-law's name was Susan Gilbert. So she kind of pulls in some elements from Emily's life into this book, and it was a really good read. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is a middle grade free verse novel. Okay, so that was my 3 and 4, probably more like 5-star reads, and now I will get to my 5-star reads. So this one is The Sasquatch Escape. I absolutely love all things, what is it called? Cryptozoology. I love thinking about like the Loch Ness Monster and whether he possibly really exists or not. I love thinking about Sasquatch and the Yeti and all of those crazy animals that I kind of believe in. Especially the Loch Ness Monster. I really think that guy's real. But Sasquatch, I don't know if I'm as convinced on him, but Loch Ness, he's real. That's just how I feel. But anyway, so Sasquatch, The Sasquatch Escape. I read this with my kids, and they absolutely loved this book. I loved this book. We laughed. It's hilarious. I honestly don't know. It's a middle grade. I'm not sure how much other people will like it. You really just have to be into cryptozoology to enjoy this book, because it's filled with all kinds of creatures that are from the imaginary world. But it follows this little boy, Ben, and this little girl, oh, I can't remember her name. What is her name? It's really bad when you can't remember one of the main characters' names. Pearl. So it's about this little boy, Ben, and this little girl, Pearl. Ben goes to stay with his grandfather for the summer, and Pearl is the town troublemaker, which I think is more like she inadvertently gets into trouble. She's not really a bad person. She just kind of falls into trouble while she's trying to help people, things like that. So Ben meets Pearl, and I don't want to say too much because it's such a fun book that I feel like you just have to read on your own. But Ben meets Pearl, and they end up having to save a Sasquatch. So I liked this book. It had a ton of really cute illustrations and just fun things all throughout. My kids loved it. They loved all the illustrations. They loved the story. One thing that gets a 5-star for me is if a book makes me laugh, and this one made me laugh a lot. It was funny. So pick this up. It's probably best read to your kids, unless you just really like cryptozoology like I do, and then you could probably read it to yourself and enjoy it. Okay, so my kids have this tendency to pour water on my books. I don't know how it happens, but it never fails. I don't know how many books they have ruined with water. So this is one of them. It was a halfway decent copy until it got water poured all over it. But this is a 5-star read that I read. This is nonfiction. It is a Christian book, and it is a shepherd looks at Psalms 23. This was such a good book. I loved the explanations he gives about sheep and how he compares sheep to people and the way we act, and our Christian walk, and what Jesus does as a shepherd, and why David wrote about the Good Shepherd. It is just by far one of my favorite nonfiction Christian books, and I'll probably recommend it to everybody because it was really, really good. So there's not a whole lot to say other than that this is good. It showed me so much about who I am and why I do some of the things I do. And one of my favorite parts in here, he talks about how sheep are stupid and how sometimes people can be stupid as well, where we know what's good for us, but we decide to do what's wrong anyway, even though we have a shepherd who tells us or tries to help us away from the things that hurt us. So very good book. I think you should definitely read it. My favorite book this month, which I already did a video about it, which I will link it above. It's a long video, but guys, this is my favorite book of all times. It's just so good. Like, let me just show you something. Okay, this is my 4 almost 5-star book. This is how much I marked in the book. That's average for me. I don't tend to like mark up my books a ton. It's just when I find something I really like, a quote that I might want to write down, or something that I might want to come back to, or something that I think is important to the story, something that I want my kids maybe someday to read and say, oh, mom liked that. That's usually what I do. But this book, it was just so good. Like, I can't say a whole lot more about how good this book is. I'm not going to say a lot about it now because I did do like a 20-minute video specifically on this book. So I don't want to like bore anybody that's seen that video and repeat it, but short synopsis is that this book is about Rose Whitelands. She is headed to be a governess for a rich family, and on the train she meets this rich woman who is an actress, and she is a war widow, and she tricks Rose into switching places with her, even though Rose does not agree with this and is adamant that she's not okay with that. So Rose ends up going to this man's family, and they think that she is his wife, and she says, no, I'm not. And the story goes from there. The main thing that I really loved about this book was the prose. She just had this way of saying things that was funny or proved a point, and I honestly don't know why she's not more popular. This book was published in 1916, and she wrote quite a few books, but most of them are out of print. There is this one and another book of hers that are being printed by a small publishing company that prints as it's ordered. I'm thankful because I was able to find my favorite book ever, and I don't know. The main thing that I was so excited about was the reading experience. I loved it. I loved this book has a predictable storyline, but she didn't go the predictable routes, and I really appreciated that. So even though I knew kind of where the story was going, she still added in some twists that I was not expecting, and I really enjoyed it. So like I said in my video of this reviewing this book, somebody needs to read this so I can talk about it, because it's so good, and I want to have a conversation about this book and see if other people like it as much as I do, because it's amazing. Okay, so I have 2 more books, and that is the books I read out of the Bible. The first one is Zechariah. Obviously, it's a 5-star for me. This is my favorite book of all times. It is the guidebook to my life, and it's very, very special to me. So Zechariah, I haven't read in a while, and I don't remember. It's funny how every time you read this, you pick up more on things than you did the time before. Or you different things come out to you. So Zechariah is a book that is filled with messianic prophecy, and I have a book that I've been working through the books of the Bible with. I'll post it here. It's the Bible Handbook by the Daily Grace Company, and what I like about it is it shows you the major themes of the book, and it gives you an outline, and it tells you different things. But for Zechariah, it has cross references for prophecies. So it has the prophecy and when it was fulfilled. And so I've been going through and cross-referencing those. So this one is Matthew 21, 1 through 11. So over here, I cross-referenced that and put it here. I appreciated that because it's amazing to me to see how God fulfilled those prophecies. So Zechariah is about the Messiah. And then I also read Malachi. And Malachi is all about how Israel at the time was bringing sacrifices, but they were not worthy. They were bringing sacrifices that were not pure. So they they were bringing lambs that had deformities and lambs that had spots, and they were not supposed to do that. Their main purpose was to bring lambs that did not have anything wrong with them. And so the fact that they were bringing these sacrifices, God was saying, hey, this isn't okay. Why are you doing this? And it's kind of a dialogue between God and the Israelites, because God will say one thing and the Israelites will say, well, what do you mean? Like God will say, your sacrifices aren't good enough, and the Israelites will say, what do you mean our sacrifices aren't good enough? We bring you sacrifices. And so God says, no, you're not bringing me the sacrifices that you're supposed to be bringing me. You're bringing me lambs that are spotted and wrinkled and have deformities. They also were not putting their tithes into the temple. Okay, so the way that it worked is that each tribe of Israel had their own land, except for the tribe of Levi, and Levi were the priests. They lived in the temple, and the way that they were to be provided for as far as food and just sustenance was for people to bring their tithes to the temple. So when they were not doing this, they were hurting that tribe. They were not giving them the provisions that they needed, and that was against what God had planned for them. So God told them, hey, you need to fix this. After Malachi, there is 400 years of silence, and it goes into the New Testament, and we get the Messiah and all the amazing things. I've started reading Matthew, and I'm trying to get through the New Testament this month, so I've been reading in some big chunks, and it's been so good so far. I'm really enjoying it. One reason why I decided to include the Bible is because this is a big part of my reading routine. I try to make this very important in my life. Sometimes I fail, but the Word of God just, it changes you. And I want others to be encouraged to read the Word of God. If you've never read the Bible before, it is something, it's a beautiful book. Even if you know nothing about the Christian faith or Jesus or anything, this book is literary, a very good book, written well, but it also has so much power behind it. So definitely a book that if you're a Christian, you should be reading anyway. If you're not, pick it up, read it. Even if you read a chapter a day, that's fine, but this is so important. If you're not a Christian, I encourage you to still read this book because it's a very good book. So that is my November wrap-up. I didn't read as much as I wanted to this month. I'm really hoping December will be a better month. But honestly, so far, we've had some busy days, and I just don't know. I'm trying really hard. Okay, so that is my November wrap-up. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I would love to get to know you more. I will be posting more videos soon, so I will see you next time.